Hello there, friends, and welcome back to Sesh Cast. My name is GLDLX. This is Sesh Cast, a cannabis podcast for cannabis sessions. And today we're gonna run to catch up with the sun, but it's sinking. This is Sesh Cast. This is just this podcast that I do where I get high and I talk about stuff for a little while. And today I'm back with you. Not that I've been anywhere, but I'm back. I was on vacation for the last week, and pre-recorded the last episode, and there was some hinky-dinks in there. It didn't go so well. You can go back at least one, perhaps two episodes to get more about that. I'm going to move my microphone, so I'm sorry if it makes noise. There we go. That's a little better. I pre-recorded last week's episode right after I recorded the episode before, but then the episode before got lost, and I had to re-record that. So a weird time loop situation. I don't know. Check it out if you like, and you can get more of that story. I don't really know how crazy it was. I haven't had a chance to listen back to it yet. I've been on vacation. I've been at the beach. If you didn't know, I talked about that a lot in the last couple episodes, and now I am back from the beach. And it was great. I had a really, really good time. It was just nice to be away from home for a little while and be on vacation, just not do stuff, which was cool. I don't love the beach in general. It's not really my scene. I don't dig the ocean the way that some people do. I have a great big fear of open water, so I'm not super into the going out on the ocean part of things. I do like playing in the waves right up close to the shore, but even that sketches me out sometimes. And I don't love being sandy or hot. So the beach, in general, not really my jam. Vacation, on the other hand, terrific, much needed, liked it a lot. So unlike most people, I'm sure my favorite part of this beach week was not my time spent on the beach. But I ate some really great food. I got to go out to some really killer restaurants, found some really great places. I was in the Charleston area of South Carolina, and had a really, really good time down there. Just got to spend some time in some other places and enjoy the sights and the food, especially of another town, which is something that I really enjoy doing. And check out some cool museums and go to some cool shops and just relax and be away from work and all of the stuff I was doing here. I was off social media for a lot of the week, which was just so needed. Holy smokes. And I had a really good time. So it was great to be away for a little while. Also did some arts and crafts, which was fun. Might end up in this week's Instagram picture. I don't really know yet. I haven't painted in probably 10 years, and I was with the family, and one of the people in the family was like, hey, I bought all of these arts and crafts to paint these memory boxes for the younger kids on the vacation. Do you guys, the older kids on the vacation, also want to paint a box because we bought extra? And we were like, sure, and did. No, it turned out really well. I had a really good time. So that picture might end up on the Instagram. It was just very therapeutic to be away for a little while. But I will say the heady culture in Charleston, South Carolina, leaves a lot to be desired. I, as the glass collector in me, did not have a great time because I couldn't find anywhere cool to buy glass, which was a bummer. And I tried. I went to head shops, I went to vape shops, and by head shops, I mean how do I describe this? The sketchy kind, the ones that sort of look like Spencer's on the inside. Not totally. I don't know if Spencer's an outdated reference or not. I don't really know how widespread that is or was in the late 90s, early 2000s. But just they're tobacco smoke stores, but also kind of head shops, because there's the balance. There's the ones where you can go in and buy cheap china glass, but it's like a smoke shop, and then there are the ones that are mostly head shops, but are just the sketchy kind. I don't know how else to describe this. I walked in, and it was a real baggy clothed, doofy looking, not so great smelling white dude trying to sell me on glass that was not at all what I was looking for. I feel like my mic is really hot. I'm going to turn this down a little bit, which is probably going to make the rest of my episode super quiet. But if I've peaked a few times already, I'm so sorry. And if I'm super quiet now, my bad. I'll get back to that thought after I finish this thought. I did not manage to buy any new glass while I was down there, and I was really hoping to come back and do this episode with, hey, this is my new glass that I got while I was on vacation, because I like buying glass from other places. And I couldn't find anything good that was local. I found some cool stuff that I could buy that was shipped in from somewhere else, but I wanted local glass, because that's what I like to collect. And I struck out. So I went to head shops, I went to smoke shops, I went to vape stores. There's one nice gallery. I should have looked up the name of that one. I had a really good experience at, I think it might just be called the Glass Gallery in downtown Charleston. Really great people at that particular store. They had a really awesome selection of quality glass, but they had a really, really small local collection, and the guy said that he wished he had a better local collection, but didn't. Gosh, I wish I could remember his name. He was such a nice dude. But their local collection was really small while I was there, and I shouldn't short them for not having local glass, because they had local glass. It just was not what I was looking for at a price that I was looking to pay for it for the particular, like, that time. You know, it's not that I won't pay for high quality local glass or artisan glass. I had X amount of dollars to spend on this vacation on glass, and their price points for what I was interested in did not fall into that range. So I didn't come home with any glass, which is a bummer. But if you are in Charleston and you're looking for something, I would recommend, I do think it's just called the Glass Gallery. Oh, crap. I don't even remember where it was. Meeting Street? Maybe? I don't know. I could be way off. But maybe it was on King. I don't know. It's in Charleston somewhere. Do some googs. You'll find it. I will say I went to one head shop where I had a very negative experience. That was the one that I was talking about that looks a little bit like Spencer's Gifts. I asked for local glass, and he tried to sell me on like a big box store. Not a bad glass company, but not at all local. Like they're a brand. I think it was Zong. Was it Zong? Yeah, I think it was Zong. He was trying to sell me a Zong glass piece, and he was like, yeah, there's a local artist who blew this. Not the case. Not bad glass, but not local. So I would not recommend that place, but I won't tarnish them or anything. Not that I, hold high standpoint as a influencer, but I would feel bad for projecting my bad experience with one salesperson at this store on the whole store. Okay, that was a long ramble about vacation. Now I should probably smoke, because I haven't done that yet. And I have a lot of weed, because I didn't think I was high enough to pack this episode. But after 8 minutes of rambling, maybe I am. Because I didn't come home with new glass for this episode, just grabbed my Sesh Cast pipe out of my case because it was clean and I haven't used it for a while. So this is from Sean at Jefferson Glass Co., a really good buddy of mine that I've met via Instagram, who does some of my absolute favorite work in the whole world. I love his pipes so much, and he made me this Sesh Cast piece. Find it on Instagram. Find him on Instagram at Jefferson Glass Co. 1. I'm going to smoke this Gorilla Glue number 4 right now. Cheers. Honestly, I suppose if this episode goes long, it's really not the end of the world. I'm not nearly as time crunched today as I have been other days. So yes, now to talk to my audio quality for a hot minute. I got in this really funny little meme train on this podcast group that I'm a part of called the Podcast Builders League. They're good people. There's a hashtag on Instagram that I often throw into my posts. If you follow that hashtag, you'll find a lot of other really cool podcasts. And it's just this little community of people that I fell into through Reddit, who are some really great people and have helped me out with a lot of my podcast issues, and who I've been able to help out. And People collab and jump around people's shows. It's not so much a network. It's just kind of a little open community. So check out that Instagram hashtag if you're looking for more podcasts. Anything from other weed podcasts to relationship advice to murder mystery and true crime. Like some really cool stuff in that group. So I fell into this little meme train with the Podcast Builders League about the Yeti Blue microphone, which is the exact microphone that I record on. And apparently out in the podcast world, it's hot garbage. Now, I will say I've had troubles with this microphone. Like, I can't lie. It's been kind of not the greatest experience with a microphone, which I think is kind of funny. But it is not nearly the hot pile of garbage that I think everybody is proclaiming it to be. I think it might be the Nickelback of microphones. Because it's not like, and you know what, that's not even doing it justice, because this microphone is not as good as Nickelback is, because Nickelback is good and you can fight me on it. This microphone is probably a little bit too expensive for the quality that it is, but does work and works relatively well, and I will stake my flag in the ground and I will fight that fight with you. Especially you, Steve Kaminsky of Baked and Awake podcast. You know who you are. He and I were getting in a little friendly tussle over all of this microphone business. So if you really think my audio is that bad, please tell me. But I don't think that it is. Anyway, now that you've been caught up on my vacation and my personal life, maybe I should actually get into what this episode is about or something. Today, I'm talking about time. For a few reasons. Ironically enough, because here I am in this episode where I've wasted the first, third of my time, perhaps fourth of my time, just rambling and not at all talking about the episode. But at the same time, talking about it because I have been thinking a lot about time and my standpoint in time and my own personal obsession, and I think society's obsession with time as something that is constantly slipping away. And I don't know, it's been in my head a lot lately. And so I started this episode thinking I'm not nearly high enough to talk about time, because this could go some weird ways and that could be really interesting. But I'm not quite there yet. So I packed a gigantic bowl for myself. But at the same time, At the same time, I don't have a bunch of time left in this episode because I wasted a lot of it rambling. But at the same time, I don't really have much else to do today except catch up on life a little bit because I was gone for a week. So if I spend a little bit too much time recording, that's okay, because time is interesting and not finite the way that I think we often assume that it is. I mean, I guess technically everyone's time or everyone's existence in time is finite, but time itself is not. Oh man, I'm already in a weird. It's gonna go some places. I'm gonna hit this one more time, and then we're gonna jump into this. And somebody out there can do a count of how many times I say the word time, because it's going to be a lot, and my brain is going to latch on to every single time that I say it, and it's going to drive me crazy. So here we go. Let me smoke some weed. I hope that you're smoking on something, and I hope that that something is good, and I hope you're having a good day, and that it is productive, and it is everything that you need it to be. Go get something done today. It will be good for you. Cheers, friends. Okay. Oh boy. All right. Whew. So, time. I think that especially myself, or people of my age, I am at a point in my life where I have gained a new understanding of the time that I have already existed for, as well as I have started to gain an understanding of the time left that I hope to exist, or the amount of time I hope to exist for, and how much time that really is. So I am 25, and so I've lived now for a quarter of a century. What some may say is a third of your life, what some may say is half your life, what some may say is a quarter of your life. But I think that 25 years is, in a sense, a lifetime. And I mean, I guess it's my lifetime up to this point already, but in 25 years, I think you go through a full cycle of life, meaning like a birth, a death, and a rebirth, to move on to a new point, like to become a new version of yourself, to shed your skin, so to speak, and move forward into another portion of your life. And this is the part where I'm going to talk about that for a little while and probably make some sweeping generalizations about people my age and people who have lived my experiences. And so if you fit into one of those two categories, or you know someone who fits into one of those two categories, and you feel as though what I say is not at all accurate, please don't be offended that I'm making a sweeping generalization. And if you are not someone who fits into one of those two categories, please don't take what I say to make a sweeping generalization and say that every single person in one or both of those two categories, being those two categories that I said earlier and don't remember, don't assume that they are that way. Everybody is different. Everybody has their own experiences. But with that being said, I think that a lot of people would feel this as true, and if you don't feel this is true, I would encourage you to at least think through this as an idea and decide whether or not you vibe with it at all, because I think it's kind of an interesting way to look at existence, that in 25 years you go through a birth, a death, and a rebirth, or you go through an entire learning process and become a new person, or whatever you want to call it. I talked a little bit about this in the different episode that I did, which was like episode 12. That was a while ago. But the concept that in 25 years, in that amount of time, you can become a new and different person. And I was thinking about that because I was thinking about how long 25 years really is. And part of the reason that I was thinking about this was because I was on this vacation with the family that has kids ranging in the there was an extended family vacation, but ranging from 7 up to me being the oldest before the generational age gap on the vacation, putting me at 25. So there's a quick math would lead me to believe that that is an 18 year difference. Did I do that right? 18 year difference between 7 and 25. And I was just thinking about how different things were when I was 7, what I remember, and B, what I know about the state of the world at that point, and what was different when this kid is 7, and the way that then the 11 and 14-year-olds were on vacation, and how we, the 23 and 25-year-old, were on vacation. It was just very interesting to look at the way that time has passed and how much time I have really existed for. Because you think of 25 years in the past, or when I used to think of 25 years in the past, I'm someone who existed for the 1990s to 2K gap, break, Y2K, the change of the millennia, whatever you want to call it. But what I base a lot of my things off of is the year 2000. So when I'm measuring time in my head, if someone says 25 years ago, what my brain automatically jumps to is 1975, just because it's the easy math point. And growing up when I was a little kid, that's what people talked about. When people were talking about 20 years ago, they were talking about the 80s. When people were talking about 30 years ago, they were talking about the 70s, and so on and so forth. That's the generation that I grew up with, meaning that I was a child and that generation was influencing the way that I perceived time and perceived the language of conversation about where we stood in the timeline of existence. So when I think like 25 years ago, my brain automatically jumps to 1975. Although that is not completely accurate. That's no longer what 25 years ago was. Because 25 years ago is now the year that I was born. And I'm realizing that there are kids now growing up with being influenced by a generation that knows 25 years ago as 1993. And so to this kid, what I thought of 1975 and how long ago I thought 1975 is in reality what this kid might think that 1993 was. And that's weird. That's like kind of mind-boggling to me to think that what I thought of the 70s and how long ago I thought that was, and how like ridiculous I thought disco was, and how just like, Earth, Wind, and Fire, and the B-52s, how they sound like way farther back than what I think 1993 sounds like, because now 1975 was like 50 years ago as opposed to like 25 years ago. And I know that those numbers don't 100% line up, but just follow along with what I'm talking about here. So I realized that I have existed now for that amount of time, what that amount of time is in my head, and how long that felt. I've existed in that amount of time for another human being, and that kind of tripped me out and made me realize I am a lot older than I have been thinking that I was. It was one of those, like, maybe I am an adult moments, where I now realize that my lifetime seems like a really long time to another sentient human being, because 7-year-olds understand things like you can, like I was saying a couple episodes ago, you can live a lot of life in 12 years, but 7, like, you understand a lot more than I think we might give 7-year-olds credit for. I say, after spending the week with a 7-year-old, like, there is a lot of perceptual concept of existence and of scope of being and scope of meaning in the mind of a 7-year-old. This sounds really stony, I know, but I hope that this is somewhat entertaining to someone. I'm going to take another hit of this, and then I'm going to keep talking about how old I am at 25. Cheers. So I've been thinking about this, and I've been thinking about how I have sort of treated myself like I am still young, like I still don't know what I'm talking about, like I still don't really deserve, not necessarily deserve an opinion. I mean, that's a very, very staunch way to say it, but I still feel like at 25, maybe I don't carry the value that I want to give myself. Maybe people don't have as much of a reason as I think that they do to listen to me or to value my contributions, or that because I'm only 25, people don't, how do I make these words happen? Because I'm only 25, I still am not quite there. I haven't climbed high enough on the totem pole of society to be valued and to have my opinions considered and my work valued. And I've been thinking that way a lot just because of my current life situation. But this week made me think a lot about how much I have actually lived in 25 years and how much I do know and have opinions on and have experience with and how much I do have to share. And I sort of realized that I am now in a phase of my life where I feel like I am away from school. And that was really kind of how I based this thought, that I'm now a few years removed from college. I don't really, with the exception of smoking hella ton of pot, I don't really keep with almost any of the lifestyle that I kept with in college, or the same activities and stuff. I've changed a lot since then, and I've really kind of settled into the things from college that are going to be a part of my life forever. And I've gotten away from just the group of people. Not that it was a bad group of people. Not that I'm not saying any of this is like a I'm not trying to say that I gave up on all of my things from college because it was all bad and yada yada. I had an amazing college experience. I loved every single minute of it. And there's very little that I would change. I'm just saying that those first couple years out of college, you still kind of keep living like you're in college. And then eventually you hit a point where suddenly you're really not in college anymore. You're really not in school anymore. You are on a completely different, like, schedule and routine and existence. Like, things are just not college anymore. But it takes a couple years after graduation to get there. So, I, at 25, have hit that point now. I hope that I got that across okay. And this is again where that generalization comes into play, because some people probably felt this way a couple years after high school if they didn't go to college. Some people may have felt this way at 22 because they only went to a 2-year college. Some people maybe at 31 or 32 because they went to college later in life. Or some people may just never feel this because they either go to college way after they've been removed from school, or they really never gave up on college, or they didn't have this kind of college experience. I don't know. But I think that the majority, the large group, after a few years of being removed from college, high school, elementary school, preschool, whatever, hits this point where you realize I am no longer a student in the traditional mindset. I am not on the school routine, I am on the work routine. And this is almost sort of a dystopian way to think about it, where you go from I am at this point where my existence, the meaning of life is to be a student, to I am at this point where the meaning of life, my existence, my purpose is to work, is to do, is to contribute. Maybe it's primal, maybe it's dystopian, maybe it's utopian, depending on how you look at it. But I really think that that's a different time in your life. That's a different section. And the way that we as a society have defined time, it puts you in this new block of living, this new check mark on the timeline where you begin existing again. You know, your first years as an adult, your years as a young professional, your time spent early on in this part of your life is very much like your time spent early on in the part of your life that was being a student, where you're still learning how things work. You're still being entered into this, but you are no longer the life cycle before. Like, you are no longer a student, you are a worker. Now I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I was thinking a lot about this and I was seeing this, and then I started to look forward a little bit and think about how short to me this 25 years has felt. You know, there is a lot that seems like forever ago, don't get me wrong, but a lot of those memories are still kind of clear. I was thinking about how I think of myself at 7, what I remember from 7, my memories from the first grades, my like, because I think that I was 7 in first grade. I think that's how that worked for me. Um, yeah, let's go with that. I was 7 in first grade, and so I was thinking about the things that I remember and how some things are crystal clear and how other things are like they never happened to me. And if you were to tell me a story about myself as a 7-year-old, I would just have to say, yeah, sure, I believe you, because I don't remember. I remember my first grade teacher's name. I remember some of the things that we did, but I certainly don't remember everything. I don't remember everybody who was in that class. I don't remember every experience I had with people. I don't remember who my best friend was in first grade. I don't remember all of these things, and so I was thinking forward to how that has felt like a really short amount of time, but to me, age 50 seems so far away. But how when I get to 50, 25 will be the new 7. And again, I know the math doesn't line up, but I needed a reference point, and so that's what I'm going with. Deal with it. I also need to adjust here real quick because my leg is falling asleep. So if that made an awful noise, I'm sorry. Um, yeah, I was just thinking about how in 25 years I'll be 50, and how right now the time that 25 years, it feels like it takes longer to spend time than it does for time to pass. That's where I want to go. That's going to be it. All right, I'm going to smoke this weed. Everybody remember that. I'm going to try really hard to come back to it. It takes longer. All right, it takes longer to spend time than it does for time to pass. Remember that. Cheers. All right. Excuse me. So it takes longer to spend time than it does for time to pass. That's the concept that I've been really caught up in lately, where you think that you have so much more time than you do. Maybe that's one way to define that, or maybe the other way is that like time. I don't know that there's another way to define that. I had a thought, but it's gone now. Gosh, I'm baked. I'm real high. I'm sorry. Oh boy. So it's this this thought that you have all this time. You have so much oh, it's going to take so long for it to be 25 years. But then you get there and you realize, wow, that 25 years went so quickly. And so if we scale that down to say, I've got to go, I've got to go to work in 3 hours. I've got to be somewhere in 4 or 5 hours. It feels like it's going to take a really long time for all of that to pass. That amount of time is going to take a lot. There is a lot of it there. Time seems big. But then 3 hours later, 6 hours later, whatever, you look back and you think that time just flew by. What happened? I thought I had so much time, but this commitment snuck up on me, going to work, being at this thing, doing whatever it is I need to do. This time went by so quickly. That time felt so small. And I think that the reason that feeling exists, I think the reason that it is the way it is, You can tell it's an aspen by the way it is. I feel that that is because we don't have the capacity, the mental capacity to perceive time fully. All we can remember, all we can perceive, all that we know and can understand are points on the timeline. You don't remember every minute of every day, you just remember what happened in those minutes. And so if something doesn't create a large enough memory, then it goes away. That part of time is lost in your memory. And I don't know enough about neuroscience and brain understanding and all this crap to even begin to be talking about it. But I'm high, so like I don't think that we have the space in our mental hard drive to store that kind of information, to remember every single minute of every single day. But what we do grasp and what we do understand are the things that happen in those time slots. The thing that happened at 3 o'clock on Tuesday, and you can piece together the exact time in the timeline sometimes, or sometimes you just remember it's the afternoon or the morning, or it's just that day. But those memories are how we perceive time. So in my first 25 years, 7-ish of that was existed, not creating big enough memories for me to remember that time in my life. And I know that there's more about the brain doesn't develop until you're X years old. I want to say it's 5. There's something like that. I don't know that for sure. Don't quote me. But you don't make memories the whole time. But yeah, so, in that first 25 years, up until maybe 7, I didn't have this understanding of time, or the understanding of the way the world exists and the way that people are. So that's 7 years out the window. And then, I was in school, but what I was focused on then were not things I was focused on now. So I wasn't creating the type of memories that myself being focused on now can look back at that time and say, yes, I remember this because it is important to me. The things that are important to me now are not what was important to me when I was 8 years old. So I don't remember a lot of things from when I was 8 years old. But you remember the little pieces that the keyword in that memory search, the keyword in the search for that piece of time is still a keyword that is important to you right now. And so you can latch onto that memory, and that is what your existence, that is what your perception of the timeline of existence is. It's just those memories that are still important to you now that you created then. And the older you get, the more memories you create that are important to things that will remain important to you years down the road. And I think that's why, part of the reason that you still remember so much that happened from 2 or 3 years ago, because you remembered those things because of why they were important, or you remembered those keywords, or I'm sorry, let me start that over. Things that happened to you 2 or 3 years ago are important to you for the same reasons that things that are important to you now are important to you. Does that make sense? I hope that it does. You remember more from recently because you have a reason to remember it. It is still important to you. But the farther away from those things you get, the more your core values, core beliefs, I don't know, I feel like I use those words a lot. The more, or excuse me, gosh, I'm struggling. I'm so high. I'm so high, and the lights in here are so pretty. The farther away you get from any point in your life, the more you change as a person, and the more what you consider to be important becomes different. So the older you get, after, let's say 25, because that's where I am in my life, I think the less likely my core values are to change. I think my core values at 50 are will be less different than my core values now. That who I will be at 50 will probably change less than who I am now than did who I am now change from who I was at 7 years old. I think you learn a lot more about who you are as a person between 7 and 25 than you do at 25 and 50. And so my guess, as someone who is 25, is that I will get to 50 and remember more of the years between 25 and 50 at 50 than I remember of the years between 7 and 25 at 25. And what that all means is that when I'm at 50, 25 years will seem like a lot longer, a lot farther ago than what 25 years feels like to me now. Because I have just realized that 25 years is kind of a long time, because I have very few memories from the last 25 years, because I don't remember even the first 7 years of them. But chances are I will remember more from when I was 25 to when it will be 32 than I remembered from when I was 0 years old to 7 years old. That time the math does line up. I'm just going to create more memories so the time will seem longer. So maybe in reality, when I get to 50, it won't feel like those 50 years has flown by the way at 25 I feel like the last 25 years has flown by. Because I'll create more memories. And so what I'm trying to say is, maybe, although it feels longer to spend time than it does to take time to pass, what I'm saying should be taken from all of this really stony rambling is that it does take a long time to pass time, but it does take a long time I'm so lost in my head right now. Yes, 6 hours seems really far away. 6 hours from now will either feel like those 6 hours flew by, or whether those 6 hours took forever. And what will determine how you feel about those 6 hours passing is the way that you spend those 6 hours, and the way that you create memories, the memories that you create in those 6 hours. That is what is important today. Whew. Wow, I'm sorry. That was a journey. And I just kind of I exhaled at the end of that, and a lot of things just left my brain. And I realized that I've smoked very little weed, and I've just talked a lot. And this episode is over now, or it should be over now. I'm going to take a big hit to stop myself from talking, and we'll see what we do next. Cheers to those of you still here. So I finally got a new sample pack for my background noise machine maker app. What I use to make the songs. And I finally got a new pack for it. I didn't use it for this episode because I don't have time. Lols. Because I haven't had the time to play with the sample pack enough to be able to really record anything good, because it's French house and it's a little weird, but it was a free pack, and that's how I get all of my sample packs. I don't pay really for them I get them when they're like, yo, we have this one for free. And I'm like, psh, dibs, yeah. I did pay for one, and it ended up being hot garbage, which is why I haven't paid for any other ones and just taken the free packs. Um, so I will have new music in the episode soon. I'm really hoping to spend some time, lols, and just sit down with my mic and record songs for a little while so that I can just have kind of a bank of background songs. I don't know if anybody would be interested in my background music as like royalty free jams, but I would be happy to probably hand those out if people are ever interested in that. So I'm hoping to just sit down and record some of those in the near-ish future, and then there should be a little bit more variety in the background music of my episodes, because I know that has kind of gone away here in the last 15 as I've just been dropping music in from other episode sessions. So that's coming. Other random updates for the end of the episode, I guess, just to, distance ourselves from today's topic, which I did really enjoy talking about. I just hope that it was as enjoyable to listen to as it was to talk about, because I know it was all over the place. But other updates. So I am going to Seattle Hemp Fest in like 3-ish weeks, maybe a little bit less than 3 weeks. Super excited, just out of my mind, beyond belief excited. Can't wait to go out there and meet people and network a little bit and just see that side of the culture, because I am on the East Coast and I haven't gotten to go experience the West Coast cannabis culture yet. So I've been to Seattle once, but it was before I smoked a lot of weed. I mean, I smoked, but only when my friends did, and also on like a school field trip. So I wasn't really going to get out and experience the cannabis culture. But I'm really, really excited to go check it out and to be over there. I will be in Seattle for all of HempFest. So if you are a Seattle native, if you are going to HempFest, I would love to see you and meet you, and I think that would be super awesome. So please shoot me an email or DM me on Instagram. I would love to meet up with folks if there's anybody I know who is Seattle local. If you are a podcaster in the Seattle area and you would like to hop on the mic, that would be thebomb.com. I might be bringing mine out there. TBD. But that'd be great. I'd love for that to happen. So find me if you are Seattle local. If you are not Seattle local, that's cool too. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody who's listening. I really, 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 really do. I am going to be making maybe stickers. Maybe. Hard maybe. If I can find a place to do it cheap and create a logo worth putting on a sticker. But boy, do I want stickers. So I will hopefully be creating stickers, and then I will send them just to anybody who wants them. So y'all just let me know. But yeah, those are some random updates. I'll talk more about Seattle when it gets a little bit closer, but I will be out there, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Today's been weird, and I hope that it vibed with you, because it really vibed with me. I had a blast today, so I hope you had fun too. This will be out on Thursday, as do all new episodes come out on Thursday. You can follow me on Instagram at Sesh Cast, because that's the best place to find me when I post new episodes. Find when I post new episodes. And I've really kind of made a commitment to myself this week that I'm going to try really hard to be a little bit more active on the Sesh Cast Instagram, because I just am not. And I want to be, but I'm not. So hopefully I'll get better about that soon. At Sesh Cast on Instagram if you're interested. Also in all your other podcast places, if you're listening to me somewhere that is less than convenient for you, find somewhere else. I'm probably there on the YouTube and on the WeedTube, with minimal content on both. But am there. Please sub. Does help, I think. I rate me on iTunes. I am supposed to say that. I have yet to really been proven too that helps you in the grand scheme of podcasting, but that's what everybody says, so rate me on iTunes, I guess. That's all I've got. I'm gonna smoke this weed and go do other stuff now. Cheers, friends. I hope that the rest of your day is great. Cheers. My name is GLDLX. This has been Sesh Cast. Thank you so much for listening.